Welcome to the Snuggly Guides. Part 2 of this guide will be discussing specific items, strategies, and locations you can use to go from living in your starting escape pod to establishing a stable base and faster undersea travel. Just as before, I'm going to suggest discovering this game on its own without a guide to get the most enjoyment out of it, but feel free to use these tips to survive a little better, here where it's wetter, under the sea. Before we start talking about upgrades, blueprints, and exploring, you need to have a foundation of basic survival. While the medkit fabricator on board the pod is sufficient for any injuries you might run into, you'll need to have more consistent food and water than what you start with in the emergency locker. Swimming after and clicking on the various small fish in the shallows is the best way to catch food for yourself. Make sure to take a fish back to the fabricator and cook it to avoid the thirst penalty and get a much bigger boost to your hunger when you eat it. Don't cook all your fish right away, as they will rot and be useless. For longer-term food storage, either cure your food with salt or leave it alive in a locker until you're hungry. Not all fish are best used for food, however. Until you get a better source for water later on in this guide, the only reliable way to stop from dehydration is catching the air sac fish and fabricating some filtered water for a 20% relief from your thirst. Always keep some air bladders or filtered water on hand when you're starting off. The first thing to understand is that progress in Subnautica is determined almost entirely by oxygen management, and because of that, speed of movement and maximizing inventory space and storage are key to being able to go farther, faster, and get more stuff before needing to surface for air. The escape pod begins in a biome known as the safe shallows. Your first goal should be scavenging the materials to fabricate an oxygen tank in your pod. This will give you an extra 60 seconds of oxygen. The materials needed are abundant and easy to find, 1 piece of titanium and 1 piece of glass. Titanium has a good chance to be mined from the various limestone outcroppings all around the starting shallows, or more easily, 4 pieces of titanium can be fabricated by deconstructing any of the various metal scrap lying around from the destroyed Aurora. Glass can be fabricated by combining 2 of the quartz stones, which are found pretty much everywhere on the seafloor near the starting area. The next step is to increase your swimming speed by getting yourself some fins for your feet. This will be your first time leaving the safe shallows and going into the nearby creepvine biome. Be careful and look out for the stalkers, which love to hide and swim around the creepvines and munch on unsuspecting visitors. Your goal in the creepvine forest is to locate the yellow glowing pods hanging off some of the vines. These pods take up a lot of inventory space, so make sure to come pretty empty-handed and take as much as you can. You'll want to get at least 6 pods to start with, but if you can manage to find and hold 9, you'll be in a much better position for crafting later on. With the pods in tow, return to the fabricator on your escape pod and use your new creepvine pods to craft 3 sets of silicone rubber. If you managed the extra 3 pods, then make sure to turn those into a bottle of lubricant for later use before the pods rot and are worthless. The swimming fins take 2 of the 3 pieces of rubber we just created, leaving 1 piece left over that you can combine with titanium to make a survival knife. Keep this knife with you to ward off unfriendly fish, but remember that Subnautica is designed as a pacifist game. The knife is only really going to be useful in self-defense, and the effort to kill a bigger fish is never going to be worth it. With the fins and knife, you also have access to a much better supply of drinkable water than catching air sacs. Pick up the small salt deposits from the seafloor and take your knife to the nearest coral tube. Cutting off a few pieces will let you combine them with the salt and create bleach. Now that you have bleach, it's an easy click on the fabricator to get disinfected water, which is twice as big as the filtered water we were using before. Any future upgrades will need to be researched. This is done by creating a scanner tool, locating a fragment of the item we want to research, and scanning them with our tool. We'll need a battery and some titanium for the scanner. Look out for limestone nodes around the shallows. If you can locate a large cavernous tube with limestone all over the outside, it it will have more inside of it, netting you a nice haul of metals. Try to get at least 4 copper so you don't have to come back later. To create the battery, grab a few of the acidic mushrooms that are literally everywhere to combine with your copper. You'll need 2 of them per battery, but I don't suggest taking any more as they tend to easily fill up inventory space. Once your scanner is created, you have the ability to scan life forms for more information, and more importantly, fragments to create more blueprints. Except for 2 key research items that appear in the late game, fragments appear as small safes on the seafloor, and reveal what they are when you get close to scan them. Each item requires multiple fragments to be scanned. Fragments differ depending on the biome you're in. What we're looking for is called the Sea Glide fragments, and will be located around the starting shallows area. While on the lookout for these fragments, continue grabbing minerals such as salt, copper, or titanium that you see for use in later building projects. You can use your knife on red or purple table coral, and be sure to grab at least 2. If you're interested in repairing the systems in your pod with a welder, venture into a tunnel and look out for the crashes. These little suckers will charge screaming at you and explode. If you manage to trigger one and survive, make sure to swim back to the flower pot it came from and take the crash powder inside, which you need for the welder. With the Sea Glide fragments scanned to completion, it's time to build your first major movement upgrade. If you didn't get the lubricant earlier from the creepvine pods, make sure to do so now. Also make sure you have at least 3 copper and 1 titanium from earlier. Grab 2 more acid shrooms if you need to, and create another battery to get started. Form 2 copper into a copper wire, and you should have everything you need for a sea glider. This device does drain energy while in use, so keep an extra battery with you at all times, keeping your eye out for copper so you can always have a ready supply of batteries. Congratulations, you've got a stable water and food supply, survival tools like a knife, welder, and a scanner to research even more, and to top it all off, you're now free to whiz around the sea, exploring to your heart's content with your sea glider. With your newfound freedom, try exploring lower depths of creepvine fields to find the rarer materials to create more complex computer systems, and scan every fragment you find to discover new wonders. If you're looking for a good next step, I suggest creating a habitat builder in order to establish a base with a larger storage space, so you can stop using all those underwater lockers. I hope this guide has been helpful to you in starting off your Subnautica journey. Make sure to rate the video however you feel about it, and comment with any tips of your own. Subscribe for future content, and above all, stay snuggly.